So Resident Evil 7 has come out, and people are loving it. They are showing it a lot of love, and they are basically saying, okay, we actually feel like that everything that is going on in this game is very reminiscent of the first Resident Evil. Even though I do kind of have my critiques on that, but still, people, they do say that they do love this they say this brand new first person Resident Evil. It's fun, it's a scary game, it's amazing. It makes me want to go back and play all the original ones except for 4, 5, and 6, because again, those were the scariest ones, or at least that's what they say. I mean, again, this game has come out, and pretty much it is now at 3 million units sold instead of 2.5. However, there's something going on with that though. Within its first week, it is actually selling, well, in its first week, it actually sold less than what the two hated versions, the two more hated versions, Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, have put out up on their first weeks. Because people, they were really interested, man, like in Resident Evil 5 and 6, regardless of however like they turned out, people were really interested in those games. Because again, it's Resident Evil, and Resident Evil 4 did a really good service to it. And 5 and 6 kind of have their problems, but still, people still kind of had that hope for Resident Evil. And when they presented them like at E3, they felt like Resident Evil games. But then you think about Resident Evil 7. You look at what that game is, how it was presented, how basically the demos kind of came out and everything, and there's a reason as to why that they're not selling as hotly as what 5 and 6 were, even 4. You can actually see why you can actually see why it hasn't, and it's because of E3. Now, regardless of however, man, like fans and everything felt of them saying, okay, now Resident Evil, this is the first scary one in a long time. Like, honestly, it's very different from Resident Evil, 7, which, Resident Evil 6, in which that, you do have to go through, a scary mansion. You do have your puzzles. You do have, your dark areas and everything. But then again, I kind of asked those questions of, is this game scary because of first person? Well, now, because is this game scary because of first person? Because, again, when the game was in first person, I mean, most people, they didn't even think that this was a Resident Evil game, because again, it didn't look anything like it. And believe me, to this day, it still doesn't look like a Resident Evil game. Which that you only have, I think looking at gaming sins and everything, it's the game only has about 4 enemies in it. So basically, you have the Baker family and you have the Molded. And when you think about that, it's this doesn't necessarily feel like a Resident Evil game, because again, it's is you in a mansion or in a manor or in a house, puzzles and everything. Yes, that is Resident Evil, but it doesn't look like it, because again, you're playing as a brand new character. You do have your first aid sprays, but I mean, your first aid stuff. You do have your weapons, your inventory management, everything else. But the problem with that is that it doesn't look like a Resident Evil game, because it's a first person thing, and most people, they were tuned off once the demo came out. And even when they do play it, it's well, yeah, this game, it's amazing, but I don't care. I don't care. Either you hate it or you love it. It's one of those things. Resident Evil 6, you could see why people hated it, once they got their hands on it. Too many QTEs. Resident Evil 5, you can see why people didn't like that one all that much, because of the co-op factor, and also all the on this DLC. Resident Evil 4, on the other hand, was a good one. Now, most people, they really love to compare all this later Resident Evil stuff, Resident Evil 7 to the later Resident Evils and everything. And looking at even the Resident Evil remake, Resident Evil remake actually feels way more scarier because of that one, because of the new one. Not necessarily because of enemies, not necessarily because of placement, not necessarily because of ammo or pretty much anything. I think it's mostly because of focus, control, and what you basically have to do, and how widespread the puzzles are, versus how Resident Evil 7 is. Now, in terms of why this isn't selling all that much, I mostly blame it mostly upon the demo, and also I blame it upon the presentation, because regardless of what anyone says, the presentation of that game didn't necessarily grab out at people and say, well, yeah, this is the new thing of Resident Evil. It just felt like this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a hillbilly family who kind of have superpowers. So that's basically what I gotta say about that. Please tell me what you think about this down there in the comment section. I was everywhere in this video. See you next time. I'm out.